Yeah, Caden Weegan with a nice 15-yard catch. Boy, I'll tell you, this regardless of the results, like I don't know I haven't even looked at the team passing efficiency rankings right now. I do know this: Minnesota, as of now, 3 weeks into the season, Don, they're a top 5 total defense. Now that's not going to hold true, but
Right.
they're top 5 in total defense, folks. Top 20 in rush defense. So this is going to be a challenge. And I mentioned it yesterday that say what you want about Minnesota being down, and they did lose to North Carolina at home, but that was not due to the defense. That game was in the teens, and North Carolina, Mac Brown, and the Tar Heels found a way out of there with a win. But that is going. I'm excited for that, Don. I am excited to see this Iowa offense tested again. Now, as it relates to the passing game, my big thing that I've got in my notes, Don, is as I mentioned, Cade. To me, the verdict's still very much out. We can get to the Brendan Sullivan's usage in the red zone here in a little bit. But I think the big thing that is encouraging to me 3 weeks into the season is Tim Lester continues to get more and more receivers involved. And that's something that has been lacking. And there's so many things that have lacked over the years, over the last 7 seasons. But how about getting a number of different receivers involved? Jacob Gill, Don, when is the last time we've said about any Iowa receiver, here's a guy who is trustworthy, and I'm not talking about off the field. Obviously, I'm not on the field, catching footballs, running routes, a guy who you're going to be able to rely on. And he is that. He hasn't, by my recollection, hasn't had a single drop. He catches everything thrown his way. He runs crisp routes. He's the best receiver on this team, hands down. And everybody was freaking out week 1 after Reese Vanderzee and his big performance. Has Reese had, one catch since then? He's a
I
true
think that's
freshman.
right.
Jacob Gill is the best receiver on this roster right now, Don.
Yes, he is. I think he's got a good overall game. I think he takes his blocking very seriously. And to my knowledge, he has not had a drop yet. And he has an idea what to do with the ball after the catch, too. So that's all good. You mentioned receivers with their first catch of the year. Let me start off with Weegan. Nice run after catch. That play, I think he caught the ball at about 15, but it was a gain of 33. So you're reminded all over again. We said this about Caleb Brown. We can say the same thing about Weegan. We got to find a way to get those guys the ball in space and then give them a chance to do something with it. That's a prime example. Weegan has good wheels. He does. 33 yards on that play. That was 2nd and 6 at the 40. That took us down to the 7-yard line. And I believe we scored a couple of 3 plays later. So that was the same drive that involved the naked throughout the stringer for the touchdown. So that was good to see. And not to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, is it pronounced Bowie or Bowie? Bowie?
Yeah.
Bowie had his first catch, I do believe.
Yes, he did.
And someone else as well. Who was it?
Caleb Brown had his first catch.
Yes, Caleb. Let's talk about that play. The beauty of that play, it was against zone. He settled in the soft spot in the zone. And when he caught it, you remember what he did, Corey? As we say, he turned and he went north-south. He went straight up the field, and he had an idea where the tacklers were, and he didn't dance around. He went with some determination too. As I recall, he had a few yards after contact as well, and he protected the ball well. They were trying to get the ball out at that point in the game, and he wasn't about to give it up. So that's good to see too. So there's a couple of guys talking about Weegan and talking about Caleb. Let's get them the ball, give them a chance to run. The ball might even be thrown behind the line or certainly just slightly downfield, but just give them a chance to work in space and make yards after the catch. And those short throws, of course, can turn into longer gains as long as you have a guy catching it that knows what to do with the ball.
They're going to be ready to go, and this is a get them back game, I guess. I know everybody's calling the game against Troy a get right game for Cade McNamara. Do you feel like Cade got right? I mean, I don't know if that's actually a term that's used in the coaching circles, Don, but was his performance suffice to you? I mean, I know he didn't look great at times, but his numbers were really solid.
Yeah, I felt much better about his game. I'll tell you one reason why. He threw the ball 23 times, and correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, a defender never touched any of those 23 passes. There were 4 incompletions. One of them was a throwaway. A couple of them were balls that were thrown safely outside of the receiver, and the other one was a drop. It was thrown a little bit behind number 15, but he still should have caught it. Remember the one over the middle? Those are the four incompletions. And as I mentioned last night on the show, any number of those throws were intermediate passes that were thrown 15 yards or so downfield. It's not like they were all high percentage throws. Some were thrown. I know the negative is nothing was over the top. I understand that, but sometimes Wiggins plays a good example. He did a good job of bending back to the ball. Remember him squeezing toward the ball, which gave him a chance to outflank the deep defender there, and you turned a 15-yard gain maybe into a 33-yard gain. So that was significant. Good to see. Let me mention one thing, Corey. A guy did on the chat, or whatever you call it. He says, any report on the Cade hand wiping before a pass play tip-off? You might remember, or maybe you weren't aware, Corey, but last night a guy called in who remained nameless, and he said, I'm pretty sure of this. Every time Cade goes to the towel, it's a pass. Now, that concerned me, if that was true. So what do you think I did? I went back and watched the game a second time, so it's not interfering with my grading. Here's what I can report. When Cade goes from the towel to the snap, every time, I'll say it this way, every time he touched the towel, I'll say it this way, every time we threw a pass, we touched the towel before we threw the pass. But here's the good news. That also applies to all of our runs. So I never found one snap in which Cade did not wipe his hands on a towel.
And that's the way it should be.
Correct.
About that, Don.
He's going to the towel every time. Oftentimes in the gun, he'll actually wipe his hands twice. Now, I think yesterday was the more humid day than normal, but for whatever the case might be, the good news, there's no tip with Cade in the towel. He goes to the towel every snap I saw, and there were a few snaps where we were going tip-o and the camera didn't catch Cade. I couldn't chart them all, but I tell you what I did do. I charted 48 snaps, and I doubt that Cade certainly he didn't have more than 60 snaps. I didn't count, of course, all those snaps belonging to Sullivan because that wasn't the point. But the good news, Cade goes to the towel, it might mean run, it might mean pass. All it means for sure when he goes to the towel, it means we're about to run another play. That's all it means.
Don, how about the laces thing? So that was brought up during the broadcast. I think you guys talked about it briefly yesterday. What are your thoughts on the comment that Cade doesn't throw with laces? Have you ever heard of this with a quarterback?
Yeah, there were some throws. This is the way we used to teach it. Some throws that need to be out of your hands immediately. It's catch throw. And you make sure the quarterback understands, be down with the laces. You got to catch it. You got to get it out now. We don't have time for you to spin the ball.
So you're saying that he's not always throwing without laces? That was
I'm not sure.
The indication during the broadcast was that, we didn't realize it, but he doesn't throw with laces.
I don't think he always throws without the laces. I don't believe just for the sake of argument, let me put it this way, Corey. Anytime you're in direct under center, the ball's going to come up exactly as you want it to. How's it going to come up? So that your fingers are across the laces. If you're right-handed, your right fingers.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is that just coincidental? Is it happening by happenstance as opposed?
I don't think he's throwing off the laces because he prefers it that way. A lot of guys do in the gun. Of course, you don't know exactly where the laces are going to be, but in general, most quarterbacks they catch it, and without even thinking about it, they spin it. They spin it so that the laces are across those fingers on your throwing hand. That's what most quarterbacks do.
Jack wants to know, Don, how is Cade's target selection? Is he checking down too much? Thank you for the super chat, Jack.
Well, I was encouraged that we took some receivers that were down the field yesterday, any number of them. And there were some guys over the top, maybe. We didn't even attempt very many deep throws. There were, I think, there's a time or two maybe where a guy was trying to get on top of the defense, but not many. So the good news, I don't think he's settled. Let me back up on one that probably bothered you. Remember I think it was 3rd and 9. Yeah, this is in the first half. We were 3rd and 9 on the plus 26. We're going in. This is the play before the field goal. 3rd and 9 on the plus 26. We were empty. I'm pretty sure that that's a check. We threw what I call a quick convoy. It was a catch throw thing. Remember he throwing the ball to the inside receiver?
Yeah.
We didn't block it very well. The lineman had to get out in front. Wasn't timed up very well. We gained a couple of yards. Now everybody's wondering why in God's name would we call a short pass on 3rd and 9? In Tim's defense, I'm 99% sure that was a check. Here's why it was a check. They did a good job of baiting us into thinking it was going to be a pressure look. They showed pressure. Cade checked to a quick throw to be sure he's not getting sacked on 3rd and 9, being knocked out of field goal range. We threw the ball. They had backed out. They tackled us for a gain of 2. So the fans weren't happy. They were probably thinking, that's on Tim. In Tim's defense, that's not the play Tim called. I'm 99% sure we checked to that. And I'm not even going to beat up on Cade because that was a good job of baiting us into making a short throw.
Although Spencer Tillman did bring up on that throw that he didn't think it was on target because he thought it could have been placed in a better place. Who was it that caught that? Was that Gill or?
I think it was Gill. You're right about one thing. Here's what on those kind of throws, we're talking about a guy breaking in, actually moving toward the quarterback. The point is, take a little bit off the pace of the ball to make it more catchable and be sure you hit him on the downfield side, right? So you can catch it and run out with it. You don't want to pull him back away from the line of scrimmage. You want to hit him on the downfield side so that he can catch it and move right into his position up that alley. So maybe the throw was off a little bit. I don't recall exactly where the throw was, but that's your goal, is to hit him right there on his downfield shoulder.